This program is made possible through the generous underwriting grants of Hatter Williams and Purdy Insurance Services of Oceanside, providing North County with complete insurance needs for more than half a century. The TriQuest Corporation, providing quality office and manufacturing space in Oceanside. McCabe's Bridge Ocean View Restaurant for fine dining while overlooking the harbor and the Pacific Ocean. And the North County Times, serving all of North County with complete local daily news coverage and internet services. Welcome to another edition of Living Legacies. I'm Tom Morrow, your host from North County Times. When I first conceived this program, I conceived it with this next gentleman in mind. The story that David Rorick has to tell is one that Oceanside needs to hear. David is one of Oceanside's oldest residents and has seen a lot of its history. David, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your life with us. Your family moved to Oceanside in what year?
In 1904, Dad came out, and 1905 they settled in they built the house in 1904 and settled in 1905.
Now, the house is the one that you're living in today?
Yeah.
Now, your dad was David Rorick Sr.? And what kind of work did he do?
He was a lawyer in town and had been a lawyer in Iowa.
Is that where the family comes from?
No. He was born in Lawrence, Kansas.
I see. Okay.
And practiced briefly in Kansas City, and then married mother and moved to her home in Belmont, Iowa, 100 miles north of Des Moines, and set up there in a law practice with an old gentleman who had been there for years. And he was there for a while, and her father, I should say, my mother's father, had 5,000 or 6,000 acres of farmland in that central Iowa area. And he went down to Spindletop, Beaumont, Texas, just at the time that Spindletop was opening up. And he bought a lot of land down there and bought a little hotel in Port Arthur. He had built a home in Beaumont and lived there when I knew him. But he brought Mom and Dad from Iowa down to manage this hotel that he'd bought in Port Arthur. And they didn't think much of that, and Dad brought him out here to, the captain, as we call him, Mother's father, sent Dad out here to Oceanside to look at the First National Bank of Oceanside, in a town of maybe 750 people.
I'll be darned.
I'm making this story out of whole cloth because I don't have any information to supplement the statement I've just made.
Yeah. Well, now what?
So,
were you born in Oceanside?
Yeah, 1913.
1913. Your dad built the house, the family house, in 1904. They moved in 1905.
Yeah.
And now your grandparents, did they come out?
No, my grandfather, father's father, came out in 1913 in June of that year with a housekeeper that he had for years in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And so Dad built that north house for him.
No, you were born in 1913.
In December.
Well, this is your birthday month.
That's right.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Now, how many is that? How many will this be?
This will be 86.
86.
No, yeah, 86.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is. When you were born, when you got into school, where did you go to school? Your elementary school.
Elementary school, right up on the hill where it is now.
On Horn Street.
Horn. The school was a wooden single building. Mm-hmm. At the corner of, well, it was on the east side of Horn at
is what Seagaze today, or
no, block south of Seagaze.
Okay.
Whatever, I can't think of that name. Anyway, that's where it was, and an anecdote from the time. The principal, Miss Dipple, mm-hmm. was well filled out, and she always wore French heels, and she stepped on my toe. I was barefooted. I never forgot that. Oh, yeah. But, yeah, that's where I went to school. And they remodeled, well, they built a new school in the 20s.
You went to high school at Oceanside High.
Yeah, in the single building that was there then at the corner of Seagaze and Horn.
How many kids were in school when you were in high school? Do you remember?
Golly, I don't, but there might have been 300.
That was, in those days, Oceanside High was the only high school around Kitchen Vista, Carlsbad, and San Clemente, or up as far as San Clemente came down here to.
Yeah, and Encinitas all came up here.
Well, Del Mar too. As far as I think, Del Mar had some kids come up here.
Yeah, that could have been.
Now you graduated in 1931.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up in Oceanside? What kind of things were there to do in those days? What did kids do?
They didn't do much of anything except baseball and skating and what was the precursor of the skateboard.
Uh-huh.
We used to call them devil coasters. You took an old skate, took one half in front and one half in back of a 2x4, mm-hmm. fastened it on the lower side, put a orange crate up here in front, and nailed it down on the 2x4. Mm-hmm. So you had a devil coaster, and you could maneuver that the same as you did the skateboard today.
Yeah, I remember. I used to make those when I was a kid. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
there you are.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Good stuff. But aside from that, there were movies and.
You remember?
Well, a lot of, at least some of us, played with lead cars as young, little fellas.
Mm-hmm. You remember your first movie?
No.
Was it a? It was.
Well, yeah, I do. I remember it lives in theater down here, and I remember one movie where it was a movie about a feud between two, we'll call them Arkansas or wherever they were from.
Uh-huh.
And I remember vividly one family said, "Damn and damn the Hatburn family." And that's all I remember about the movie.
Was that a silent picture?
No.
It was a soundy then, huh?
Well, no. It was a silent picture. Yeah, and the words were written.
Written on there.
Yeah. This was in 1920, long in there.
Did your dad was your dad involved in World War I, or any family members?
No. My older sister married a young fella that was in the war, but Dad he sold a lot of war bonds. Mm-hmm. But that's
how many brothers and sisters did you have?
Two sisters.
Two sisters.
One in 1900 and one born in 1902.
Are they still
so
living?
I'm what you call an old cow's calf, being 13 years younger than.
I'd never heard that one before. Now, what are they still living? Your sisters?
No, they're both dead. Mm. Yeah.
The big celebrations back in Oceanside in those days, 4th of July.
4th of July was a big one, and in the early days, that was the only one. They had parades. Of course, they had, during the war, they had access to a camp of soldiers down on the beach. Mm-hmm. And I think one year they came up and had maybe a company or something like that.
Now, this was World War I?
World War I, yeah.
All right. Now, when you graduated from high school in 1931, your dad's an attorney here in town. You went to college where?
At Pomona.
Up in Pomona?
Yeah.
And
Pomona College in Claremont.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And after graduation, you started an implement dealership here in Oceanside?
Yeah.
This was in 1939?
Yeah.
A lot of farm country around at that time.
It was all farm, yes.
And it was all where Camp Pendleton is today?
Most of it was there, yes. Most of it we traded with, but there was still a lot of farming in the country around Escondido. Mm-hmm. And so our competition was with Escondido. Mm-hmm. And we were a fringe, so to speak, after Camp Pendleton opened up.
Now, the farm implement dealership didn't go all that well, so you converted to being an international truck dealer?
Yeah.
And your trucks kind of helped build Camp Pendleton, or at least...
Yeah. We didn't sell anything except repair, occasional repair jobs mm-hmm. to the Haddock, the contractor out there,
that was building the base.
built all the buildings at Pendleton.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
What year did you become a Buick dealership?
41.
Okay.
Yes.
And you got your first new Buicks in 1941.
Yeah.
And that was the last Buicks for several years, right?
Exactly. We opened it in 41 in April, and in December we had received, I think, 3 or 4 cars in that period of time, and of course in December
Pearl Harbor kind of wiped out all production for a few years.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, now I know that in 1941 you were quite the well-known businessman in town. That was the year you were president of the Oceanside Rotary Club. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Tell me, you had told me an interesting story about Buicks in those days. I know that it was a straight 8 engine, and they burned high octane fuel. And of course, when the war broke out, high octane fuel was very hard to come by. So you had to convert a lot of these Buicks that you sold or other people had. How did that go about?
Well, the Buick had designed a small spark plug that would ignite the high octane fuel, but it didn't do for the low octane fuel that we got.
It couldn't burn very well. It wouldn't run on it, and those engines wouldn't run very well on low octane.
Yeah. And so we had to bore out the cylinder head on all these 41 models, not only what we had sold, but what had been bought from dealers in San Diego. And
put in the old type spark plugs, huh?
Put in a bigger spark plug, yeah.
So you could.
So that kept us from going broke.
You did that for the next year or so, then, right?
Yeah, almost a year, but we were doctoring those cars.
Were you able to sell anything during the war years other than just repairs and keep service up?
No, of course, when Pendleton came, we lost out on the farming that was on Pendleton. And so we dumped the farm equipment, and outside of that, they were just maintaining the trucks and cars that were on the road now at that time.
What was it 46 before you finally started getting Buicks again?
Yeah, it was summer of 46, I guess it was.
Well, I remember my dad drove Pontiacs and my uncle drove Buicks when we were kids, but cars were pretty hard to come by in the 40s and the 50s. You had to order them, didn't you? I mean, you might have a couple on the showroom floor, but you couldn't just go down and pick out a car and drive it away like you can today.
No, that's right. It was for most of a year, you had to stand in line, wait in line at least, until your number came up for the car you ordered.
So I was going to say, did you have anybody try to bribe you to get to the top of the list? Has that ever happened? Or
No. The only thing, one guy wanted the car that I was driving, convertible, 3 colors, coupe. And I wouldn't sell it to him because we were using it for the 4th of July parades. And That's the last I saw of him.
Well, you built the Rorick Buick up to being one of North County's largest dealerships, and does the family still own the Buick dealership, or
no? We've sold. I haven't been active in it since the '60s.
Mm-hmm.
But Murphy, Walt Murphy, and his son Chris, that runs it now, they're the ones that built it up.
Mm-hmm.
I furnished the capital, that's true, but
and the name.
That's all. Yeah.
And the name.
And the name. Yeah.
Now, you were involved in some other businesses here in Oceanside. Oceanside Federal.
Yeah.
Were you one of the founding members of that?
No. The doctor who brought me into the world was the starter of that. He and Dad were close friends.
Mm-hmm. What was the doctor's name?
R.S. Roberts S. Reed, R-E-I-D.
Mm-hmm.
He started it as a mutual savings and loan, where you put in $25 a month, mm-hmm. or $50 or $100 or whatever you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And the first guy in was the guy who took the pot that built up to the point where he could build a house.
I see.
He took that pot, and then the next guy would come up to the front, and when the pot was big enough to build his house, he took that and built his house.
So that's the way people got to finance their homes in those days.
That's right. That's how it was. Strictly a mutual savings and loan.
Mm-hmm.
Building and loan, they called it in those days. And then in the 30s, it changed over to a federal savings and loan because of the Depression and the fact that in our association here, we had $500 and some odd thousand of assets, of which 250 were foreclosed real estate.
Mm. Now, that Oceanside Federal has changed hands several times. What is it today? I mean, what bank finally ended up with it?
Well, I don't know. Hemet had it for a while.
Hemet Savings?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But it's dissected now. We had, I don't know, 7 or 8 branches.
Mm-hmm.
As far away as Paris.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Up in
Sun City.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Paris, California.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your home. I know your home is one of the showpieces on Pacific Street in Oceanside, and it's been the site of a number of grand parties. Oceanside Museum of Art, I know, is one of your favorite organizations, and there got to be a rumor started, and I don't know who started it, but I wanted you to set the record straight. The famed architect Kate Sessions, did she have anything to do with your backyard, that wonderful garden that you have? Because that was the rumor that she designed Balboa Park, for those people at home who don't know who Kate Sessions was, and there's a rumor that she came up and designed your folks' garden and backyard.
She didn't she helped Mother with deciding what kinds of things to put where in the area.
So she did have some input, huh?
Yeah. I never met her that I know of, but I was busy playing tennis and fussing around in high school, so making difference to me.
But I know the environment and horticulture is a favorite of yours. You were involved with the Buena Vista Lagoon for quite some time. The conservancy over there, is that?
Oh yeah. Yes, and good heavens, that's 1960, I guess. Yes.
Almost 40 years ago.
Yeah. The lagoon was owned originally, owned up until 1960 by a big lumber dealer in Pasadena.
Mm-hmm.
Can't think of his name now, but he owned the lagoon and the surrounding land,
mm-hmm.
but he didn't want to develop and didn't want to change the lagoon, and he didn't want to own it either.
So it became this protected area then.
So it became the property of, he gave it to the Buena Vista Lagoon Association, I think they called it. Anyway, it was a half a dozen property owners around the lagoon.
Mm-hmm. David, we've run out of time, and I know we could go 2 more hours with this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I appreciate your time, and it's quite all right. We loved hearing this great history of yours. I'm Tom Morrow. This has been Living Legacies, and our guest has been David Rorick, Jr. of Oceanside. This program is made possible through the generous underwriting grants of Hatter Williams and Pretty Insurance Services of Oceanside, providing North County with complete insurance needs for more than half a century. The TriQuest Corporation, providing quality office and manufacturing space in Oceanside. McCabe's Bridge Ocean View Restaurant for fine dining while overlooking the harbor and the Pacific Ocean. And the North County Times, serving all of North County with complete local daily news coverage and internet services.